I found my husband selling my wedding ring to a pawn shop. That's when I knew I had to choose between saving my marriage or saving my children. My name is Margaret. I'm 76 years old. And for 23 years, I lived with a man who beat me, stole from our children, and gambled away everything we ever owned. It started small, like abuse always does. We got married in 1965. I was 19, Richard was 22. He was charming, handsome, the kind of man every girl in town wanted to marry. I thought I was the lucky one. The first time he hit me was 6 months after our wedding. I'd burned dinner. The roast was dry. The potatoes were hard. Richard came home from work in a bad mood. "Margaret, what the hell is this?" "I'm sorry, honey. I got distracted. This food is garbage. I can make something else. With what money? Do you think money grows on trees?" "Richard, please don't yell. Don't tell me how to talk in my own house." That's when he slapped me. Not hard, just a quick slap across the cheek. I was so shocked I couldn't speak. "Now look what you made me do," he said. "I'm sorry. I work all day and come home to burned food and a nagging wife." I wasn't nagging. Don't argue with me, Margaret. He stormed out and didn't come home until midnight. The next morning he brought me flowers. "Baby, I'm sorry about last night." "It's okay. It'll never happen again, I promise." But it did happen again, and again, and again. The second time was 2 weeks later. I'd forgotten to iron his work shirts. The third time was because I spent too much money on groceries. By our first anniversary, Richard hitting me had become normal. "You're too sensitive," he'd say. "It's just a little slap." Other husbands don't hit their wives. Other wives don't make their husbands crazy. I started believing it was my fault. If I cooked better, cleaned better, talked less, argued less, maybe he wouldn't get so angry. But Richard's anger wasn't about anything I did. Richard was angry at the world, and I was the safest target. Our first child, Danny, was born in 1967. I thought having a baby would change Richard, make him more responsible. Instead, it made him more violent. "The baby never stops crying," he'd yell. "He's a baby. Babies cry." "Well, make him stop."
"I'm trying."
"Try harder." When Danny was 6 months old, Richard hit me so hard I had a black eye for 2 weeks. "People are going to ask questions," I said. "Tell them you fell down the stairs." "Richard, what if someone calls the police?" "No one's calling the police. Mind your own business." But I couldn't hide the bruises forever. My mother noticed during Sunday dinner. "Margaret, what happened to your face?" "I fell down the basement stairs." "Those look like fingerprints on your arm." "Oh, Mom, please don't make a scene." "Margaret, is Richard hurting you?" "Of course not. Why would you think that?" But my mother wasn't stupid. She'd been married for 30 years. "Honey, if you need help." "I don't need help. Richard loves me. Love doesn't leave bruises." "Mom, you don't understand. Richard's under a lot of stress. That's no excuse for violence." "It's not violence. It's just he gets frustrated sometimes." My mother looked at me with sad eyes. "Margaret, your father never laid a hand on me, not once in 30 years. Richard's different than Dad." "He is." Our second child, Susan, was born in 1969, 2 kids under 3 years old, and Richard's temper was getting worse. He started drinking more, coming home later, and that's when the gambling started. At first, it was just poker games with the guys from work. "It's harmless fun," Richard said. "A few bucks here and there," but the few bucks turned into $20, then 50, then 100. "Richard, we need that money for groceries. Don't tell me how to spend my money. It's our money. I earned it. I'll spend it however I want." "What about the kids? What about them? They need food, clothes, medicine when they're sick." "They'll be fine." But they weren't fine. There were nights when we had no food in the house because Richard had gambled away the grocery money. Nights when I put the kids to bed hungry because I couldn't afford to feed them. "Mommy, I'm hungry," Susan would say. "I know, baby. We'll have breakfast tomorrow." Why isn't there any food? Daddy needed the money for work. I lied to my children to protect their father, the man who was slowly destroying our family. By 1971, Richard was gambling every weekend. Poker games, horse races, football bets. Anything he could lose money on. Richard, the rent is due tomorrow. I know when the rent is due. Do we have the money? We'll have it. Where are you getting it? That's not your concern. But it was my concern when the landlord came knocking. Mrs. Patterson, your rent is 3 months overdue. I know. My husband said he'd take care of it. If you can't pay by Friday, you'll have to leave. Please, we have children. I'm sorry, ma'am, but I have bills too. That night, I confronted Richard. We're not being evicted. The landlord said Friday or we're out. I'll handle it. How? I have a sure thing at the track tomorrow. Richard. You can't gamble with the rent money. Don't tell me what I can't do. He grabbed me by the throat and slammed me against the wall. You think I don't know how to take care of my family? I can't breathe. Maybe next time you'll think before you question me. He let go and I collapsed to the floor. Danny, who was 4 years old, was watching from the doorway. Daddy, why did you hurt Mommy? Go to your room, Danny. But Mommy's crying. I said go to your room. Danny ran upstairs crying. Richard went to the track the next day. He lost every penny we had. We were evicted on Friday. My mother let us stay with her for 2 months while Richard looked for work. Margaret, this has to stop, she said. What has to stop? The gambling, the violence. This isn't a marriage. It's torture. Things will get better when Richard finds a job. Things will get better when you leave Richard. I can't leave him. Why not? Because he's my husband, for better or worse. This isn't worse, Margaret, this is hell. Richard found a new job and we moved into a smaller apartment. For a few months, things were better. He was working, bringing home paychecks, staying away from the track. I thought maybe we'd turned a corner. Then Danny started school, and I found out how wrong I was. Danny's teacher, Mrs. Johnson, asked to speak with me. Mrs. Patterson, Danny seems very anxious in class. He's just shy. It's more than shyness. He flinches when anyone raises their voice. He's sensitive. Or Mrs. Patterson. Yesterday, Danny told me that his daddy hits his mommy. My face burned with shame. Children have active imaginations. Do they? Because Danny has very specific details. Mrs. Johnson, I appreciate your concern, but my family is fine. Eyes it. Because Danny also told me that sometimes there's no food at home. We've had some financial difficulties, Mrs. Patterson. I don't need help. Thank you. But I did need help. I just didn't know how to ask for it. In 1973, Richard discovered the casino. Up until then, his gambling had been limited to weekends. But casinos were open 24 hours a day. Richard started calling in sick to work so he could gamble. Richard, your boss called. He said if you miss another day, you're fired. He can't fire me. I'm the best worker he's got. He can fire you if you don't show up. Mind your own business, Margaret. But it was my business when Richard got fired. It was my business when the electricity got shut off. It was my business when we had no money for food. What are we going to do? I asked. I'm going to win it back. With what money? I'll figure something out. That's when Richard started stealing from our own house. First, it was small things. My jewelry, the good china. Richard, where's my grandmother's necklace? How should I know? It was in my jewelry box yesterday. Maybe you misplaced it. But I hadn't misplaced it. Richard had sold it, along with my wedding ring, our television, and Danny's bicycle. Daddy, where's my bike? Danny asked. Someone stole it. Who would steal my bike? Bad people steal things from good people. The irony was lost on him. By 1974, we had nothing left to sell, so Richard started stealing from other people. He forged checks, stole from his friends, borrowed money he never intended to pay back. Richard, Mrs. Henderson called. She wants to know when you're paying back the $50 you borrowed. Tell her I'll pay her next week. You said that last month. I said I'll pay her next week. He backhanded me across the face. Susan, who was 5, started crying.
Daddy, don't hit Mommy!
Susan, go to your room.
I want you to stop hitting Mommy.
I said go to your room. Richard raised his hand towards Susan. That's when something inside me snapped. Don't you dare touch my daughter. What did you say to me? I said don't touch her. She's my daughter too. Then act like a father instead of a monster. Richard grabbed me by the hair and dragged me into the kitchen. You think you can talk to me like that? Let go of me. I'll let go when I'm good and ready. He slammed my head into the kitchen counter. I saw stars. Maybe now you'll remember who's in charge. That night, after Richard passed out drunk, I packed a bag for the kids. Mommy, where are we going? Danny asked. We're going to stay with Grandma for a while. Why? Because Daddy's sick. Is he going to get better? I looked at my 7-year-old son. So innocent, so hopeful. I don't know, baby. We stayed at my mother's house for a week. Richard called every day, begging me to come home. Margaret, I'm sorry. I'll get help. You've said that before. This time I mean it. Richard, you hit me in front of our children. I was drunk. It won't happen again. You've been drunk for 10 years. I'll quit drinking. What about the gambling? I'll quit that too. Richard, you've promise is different. How? Because I almost lost you. You did lose me. Margaret, please. I love you. If you love me, get help. I will. I promise. Against my better judgment, I went back. Richard was sober for 2 weeks. Then he disappeared for 3 days. When he came home, he was drunk and broke. Richard, where were you? None of your business. It is my business. You left me alone with 2 children. I needed some time to think. You needed time to gamble. Don't start with me. Margaret, how much did you lose? I didn't lose anything. Then where's your paycheck? What paycheck? Richard, you picked up your paycheck Friday, spent it. On what? Things we needed. We need food. We need rent money. Did you spend it on that? I spent it on what I wanted to spend it on. That's when I noticed my wedding ring was missing from the kitchen windowsill. Richard, where's my wedding ring? What wedding ring? The one I took off to wash dishes. It was right here. I don't know anything about a wedding ring, but I knew he'd taken it. The next day, while Richard was passed out, I walked to every pawn shop in town. At the 3rd shop I found it. Excuse me, is that my wedding ring? Someone brought it in yesterday, $50. Can I buy it back? It'll cost you $75, but you only paid $50 for it. That's business. Lady, I didn't have $75. I stood there looking at my wedding ring through the glass. The ring Richard had put on my finger 11 years ago. The ring that symbolized promises he'd broken over and over again. Ma'am, you want to buy it or not? No, I said quietly. I don't. That night I made my decision. Richard, I want a divorce. What? You can't divorce me. Yes, I can. On what grounds? Abandonment, abuse, gambling addiction. You can't prove any of that. I have medical records from the hospital, from when you broke my ribs. You fell down the stairs. I have photographs of bruises. Witnesses. No judge will believe you. Maybe, but I'm going to try. Margaret, if you divorce me, you'll have nothing. I already have nothing. You'll be a single mother with 2 kids. I'm already a single mother. Where will you live? Anywhere but here. How will you survive? I'll figure it out. Margaret, you're being stupid. Richard, I'm being smart. For the first time in 11 years, I filed for divorce the next day. Richard fought it, but he had no money for lawyers. I had my mother's support and the testimony of neighbors who'd heard him hitting me. The divorce was final in 1975. Richard disappeared after that, moved to another state, last I heard. Never paid a penny of child support, never called his children, never acknowledged their birthdays or graduations or weddings. Danny and Susan grew up without a father, but they grew up without violence too. Without fear, without wondering if Daddy was going to come home drunk and angry. It wasn't easy being a single mother in 1975. I worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat, cleaned houses during the day, waitressed at night, babysat on weekends. The kids helped as much as they could. Danny got a paper route when he was 10. Susan babysat the neighbor's kids when she was 12. We were poor, but we were safe, and we were together. 20 years later, Danny called me. Mom, Dad's dead. Richard had died alone in a motel room in Las Vegas. Heart attack at 58. Still gambling, still drinking, still destroying everything he touched. How do you feel about it? I asked Danny. I don't feel anything. He stopped being my father when I was 7. Susan felt the same way. He was just a man who used to live in our house, she said. I felt sorry for Richard when he died. Not because I missed him, because he'd wasted his entire life. He'd had a wife who loved him, children who adored him, a chance at happiness, and he'd thrown it all away for the temporary thrill of gambling, for the false power of controlling his family through fear. People ask me why I stayed as long as I did. The answer is complicated. I stayed because I was 19 when I married him and didn't know better. I stayed because I thought marriage was forever, no matter what. I stayed because I was afraid of being alone. I stayed because he convinced me it was my fault. I stayed because leaving seemed harder than staying. But mostly, I stayed because I didn't know I had a choice. In 1965, women didn't have many options. We couldn't get credit cards without our husband's signatures, couldn't rent apartments, couldn't get decent jobs. Divorce was shameful. Single motherhood was disgraceful. The police didn't take domestic violence seriously. It's a family matter, they'd say. Work it out between yourselves. But times changed, and I finally changed with them. I learned that I didn't have to accept abuse just because I was married. I learned that my children deserved better than watching their father hurt their mother. I learned that being alone was better than being with someone who made me feel worthless. Most importantly, I learned that I was stronger than I thought, strong enough to work 3 jobs, strong enough to raise 2 children by myself, strong enough to build a life without violence. Danny became a teacher. Susan became a nurse. They both married good people who treat them with respect. They both raised their children without fear. The cycle of abuse stopped with me. Richard never got the chance to hurt another generation. I'm 76 years old now. I've been married to a wonderful man named George for 30 years. George has never raised his voice to me, let alone his hand. He's never gambled away our grocery money. He's never made me choose between protecting him and protecting our children. That's what real love looks like. Not perfect but respectful. Not passionate but peaceful. Not exciting but safe. I wasted 11 years of my life with Richard. But those 11 years taught me something valuable. They taught me what I would never accept again. They taught me that love without respect isn't love at all. They taught me that no one has the right to hurt you, no matter what you've done. They taught me that leaving is always an option, even when it seems impossible. Most importantly, they taught me that I deserved better. And once I believed I deserved better, I found it. If you're living with someone who hurts you, please know this, it's not your fault. You don't deserve it. You have options. You are stronger than you think. And you deserve a life without fear. It took me 11 years to learn that. I hope it doesn't take you as long.